Welcome to the Open to Hope Show. I am your host, Dr. Heidi Horsley, and I'm here today talking about the brutal truth about supporting someone after a death. And we have 4 great guests that know a little bit about that, and I'm going to just launch right into our topic and introduce them today. Next to me is Elizabeth Devita-Raeburn. She has been on many of our shows and podcasts. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi.
She is an author, journalist, and blogger. Her stories have appeared in the Washington Post, Self, Glamour, and Psychology Today, among others. Her brother Ted lived for 8 years in a plastic bubble and died of a rare immune disorder at the age of 17. His life was loosely based on a John Travolta movie called The Boy in the Bubble. She is the author of The Empty Room, Understanding Sibling Loss, a book that I love, as you know. And she is the co-author of the book The Death of Cancer, which she wrote with her father, Dr. Vincent DeVita. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to have you back. And next we have Dr. Parul Dua Makkar, whose path was forever changed after the devastating loss of her younger brother, Dr. Mano Dua, to oral cancer, and later her beloved father to grief. She's a practicing dentist, author, and grief coach, and you are the author of Life Interrupted, Dr. Dua's Survival Guide, and Stories of Friends and Family Lost. She has given numerous podcast and television interviews, and her book was featured in Times Square in New York City on the Marquee, which I love. That is very cool. Welcome, Parul.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, and next is Jordon Ferber.
Hello.
Jordon is a stand-up comic, comedian, podcaster, and public speaker. His brother Russell was killed in a car accident at 21 years old. Jordon is a co-chapter leader for the Compassionate Friends Manhattan chapter and facilitates workshops at the national conferences. He is also host of the popular podcast,
Where's the Grief?
There you go. He and his family run the Russell Ferber Foundation, which provides scholarships to the Culinary Institute of America and produces a yearly comedy benefit show, which I just attended, and it was absolutely hysterical.
Oh, thank you.
So welcome, Jordon. And next to Jordon, last but not least, is Keith Singer, who's also been on the show many times. Keith facilitates Compassionate Friends monthly sibling meetings for his Staten Island, New York chapter. He lost his sister Lori in an automobile accident at the age of 18 while she was active duty serving in the U.S. Navy. He also moderates panels and facilitates workshops at the National Compassionate Friends conferences. One of the most popular workshops Keith facilitates is a sibling panel for parents, and you are a certified grief educator. Yeah. So welcome, everybody. Welcome, Keith.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are going to talk today about the brutal truth about supporting someone after a death. So I'm going to start with Elizabeth. What are your thoughts on this topic? I mean, what is the brutal truth?
The brutal truth, I would say, is that when you're new in a loss, you really want to hear how it's going to be over at some point, that there'll be closure, because that's promised a lot in the media, I think, when they talk about loss. And the reality is that loss is a lifelong experience if it was somebody very close to you. That the loss will change. It won't be as devastating as in the beginning, but you'll be processing it and sort of acclimating it into your life for the rest of your life. And that's really hard to hear in the beginning, I think. And it's a hard thing to convey. And I don't know if it's always wise to convey in the beginning, but sometimes people do ask.
Yeah, so it's not like there's a beginning of an ending.
Right.
It changes and it morphs and it's different all the time, and
your life has changed.
Yeah.
Gets better.
It does get better.
Different.
But, yeah.
I like to say that it gets easier to recognize when it is going to be difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It gets easier to the parts of managing it get a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more familiar. I get better at managing my own response to the things that are hard.
Right.
Yeah. Better is a weird word because
Right.
it's different. I think I like to use the word different.
Yeah.
But it's, I guess, on the theme of it won't always be open and raw.
Yeah.
And so I think, go back to your question, is really hold on tight, because dealing with someone that had lost is going to be extremely difficult. I don't think there's an easy button. I don't think there's a manual, one fits all manual either. However, I think more patience than you probably ever had to exercise in your life dealing with someone that had lost somebody.
So you need a lot of patience. And, I think one of the brutal truths is we don't get over it. We learn to live with it.
Right.
And which is not a bad thing, because how do we want to get over our siblings? I mean, I'm who I am today because Scott was in my life.
Right. Sure.
Raul, do you have any thoughts about this?
They talk about the cycles of grief. There is no step by step. Grief is very unique to that individual, how you process it. You can be in a cycle in one stage and go back to it. So don't expect, like Elizabeth said, that, you're going to do step 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's over, and you're done with it. And it's a burden you're going to carry every single day for the rest of your life. Some days it's heavier, some days it's lighter. And, like she said, you'll get better at channeling that grief and processing it, but know that you are a different person because of it.
Yep.
That's the big one.
That is the big part of it. I am a different person fundamentally than I was before my brother died, and I had a hard time connecting with people in my life because they were trying to relate to a version of me that no longer really existed, while I was desperately trying to hold on to a version of myself that no longer really existed. So I had a hard time just connecting with anybody because I had a hard time connecting with myself. So yeah, the people that stuck around, that had the patience, were people that also knew my brother, and I guess were also dealing with their own level of grief over it as well. But it is interesting, the people that I met after the fact, who came out of the woodwork to sort of support me, the people that I think only met this version of me. It was hard to transition from that to being to not always being that version of myself either. I've definitely adapted and evolved into a better person, I think, over time, and better at talking about this stuff anyway.
Do you know one of the conundrums that I find? Like, I would do anything to have my brother back again, but given that that's not an option, I like who I am now better, having been through that, than who I was before then.
Oh, I love this. Okay, say more.
I'm just more aware, more compassionate, more empathic, more thoughtful. I'm a deeper, richer person. I'm also a sadder person. That goes with it.
Right.
But,
so we wish he was here.
Right.
But this is all about post-traumatic growth, too.
Yes,
When
exactly.
you think
That's
about
exactly
it.
what it is.
Yeah.
But it's a choice, right?
Reminds me of
Choice.
something.
Yeah.
I forget who it was. I interviewed a guy for my podcast who told me that, as unfortunate as it is that we lose these people that are really close to us, that mean so much, that process of losing and going through the grief is a natural part of the human condition, and it adds value to your experience as a human being to go through that. Like you say, I'm more empathetic. I'm a better listener. I'm a better friend to people that need an ear or a shoulder. I reordered all of my priorities in a way that made things so much more crystal clear. It was really clear who I wanted to spend my time with, how I wanted to spend the rest of my, I think there are a lot of elements that are the silver linings that I try to look for. And I've really clung to a lot of those as great solace.
I do think it in some ways, not at first, but, at some point it gravitates toward choices. Like, how am I going to be? I
Right.
can't undo this. I can't change it. I can't change the laws of the universe. My brother is gone. How am I going to live with it? How am I going to go forward? How am I going to grow? How am I going to be a better person? Like, I felt like I needed to grow because otherwise it would have been for nothing. So how was I going to make my own life or the world, richer for this having happened? Yeah.
And you touched up on a concept of time. It's that one thing that we cannot exchange, return, refund, replace. And how you choose what you do with that time, who you choose to spend it with, doing the things that you enjoy. It really, I don't think I thought about those things after losing Manu. And now I'm like, oh my God, I wish I had more time so I could have built more memories, because you don't get to build anymore. So that concept of this money will come and go, time is irreplaceable.
Yeah.
I feel like you get sort of an awakening to things that you weren't aware of, almost kind of like the Matrix, the red pill, where all of a sudden you start to see different things and value different things in life now after the loss. Doesn't mean I still wouldn't trade. I'd love to go back to being naive if I could get my sister back.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
But I resonate with everything all of you saying. Is for sure it was an awakening and it changed me as a person.
Well, I think that people that have had these kind of losses can handle adversity more.
Sure.
Because we've had like such a horrible loss.
Right.
And, you know, going forward, we're not afraid to help other people,
Sure.
you know, or go towards them. I was asked the other day if I had closure yet. What are your thoughts about that question?
Did you smack them?
There's no closure.
There is no closure.
There's no closure.
Yeah, I would say
Never
Closure
is.
is peas.
yeah, there's no closure. I think there are ways to become a little bit more comfortable with what is. You know, I think the way that I deal with the whole acceptance thing is I have accepted the fact that it will never be okay that he's not here. I've accepted that as a fact, so I can move on from that. That's a base fact, so I don't have to argue about that fact with myself over whether or not there is acceptance or closure. No, his absence is permanent, and so there will be there is no real closure. I'm always working on finding new ways to be a better me.
Because there's always reminders, right? So so that's the thing, right? It's not like they just, you know, there's, you know, you have life events, there's anniversaries, there's things that are consistently still come back around that don't let you kind of forget. So it feels like an emotional limb, like if you lost a limb.
So
you can
different
just-
events in your life that bring back that memory.
For sure.
And I'm
So
thinking
that-
with you have a 4-year-old, so
That's
and a
right.
5-year-old, so having children and not having your sister there.
That's right.
I mean, there's a lot of events that we have, right?
There's a lot.
Monumental events
Right, right.
where they're not there.
Children.
What are some of the things that you should not say to anyone that has had a loss? I mean, we've all had brothers and sisters die, and some of us have had parents die as well. What are some of the things that are not helpful?
Almost everything is not helpful. Really what it is. There's not a lot you can say that's helpful. It's really what it is. You know, I mean, ultimately, somebody that said, "I'm sorry you went through that. Tell me about him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about him, or you know, or whatever you want. You know, sit with me while I cry, while I talk, whatever it is." That was what was the most helpful.
Okay.
Don't say they're in a better place.
The things that people
Yes.
say are almost uniformly terrible.
Give you anything you can't handle.
Yeah.
Smack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
They're in a better place.
God
God
intended for
I
this
think-
to happen.
God intended for
He
this to
did
happen.
Not, or she did not.
I like to say people who say everything happens for a reason will still ask you why when you punch them.
How about anything that starts with at least?
Right.
Yeah.
At least it was fast. At least you have siblings. At least you
Yeah.
know. At least whatever they were young. I don't know.
Blame society, right? Because they don't really teach you. Nobody teaches you
Yeah.
the right things, and you just always heard those really bad phrases, and so you repeat them. Because I do remember, before losing my sister, I probably said the same thing to someone else because you just don't know. I think people are afraid to say nothing because then they come across cold and not caring. So I think the better thing to say is, look, I know there's no right thing to say, and give a hug is probably better than, or be there to listen, be there to acknowledge. It's probably the best thing to do instead of finding something to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, I know is a nice thing. It's better than nothing, but it's also a little jarring. Because initially, when my brother first died and people said they were sorry, I'm like, you didn't, why? You didn't do anything.
Right.
Did you kill him?
I think it's meant to be, I'm sorry you're going through that.
Yes,
Yes.
I agree
But-
with you, Elizabeth.
But it's too abbreviated. Because
I
I
like
remember
that.
when people said it to me when I was 14 and I was just like annoyed by it.
Yeah, I
And
like-
now I actually encounter people who've had losses and I'll reflexively say, I'm sorry. But I try and finish the sentence, or I try, like Jordan says, to be like, well, tell me about them. Because that's really,
I
what
like
it's
the
about.
sentence being finished. I'm sorry you're going through this.
yeah,
Right.
That makes sense to me.
yeah.
Sorry you had to go through this.
Yeah, somebody said to me, I'll never forget, because people were saying all sorts of stuff. Someone came up and said, wow, that really sucks. And I'm like, thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
You get it. I mean, it was like,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
That's-
And even if people say to me, I'm not sure what to say, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I know they're trying, they
There is
just don't
nothing
know.
to
And
say.
that's
There's nothing to
honesty.
say that's
Yeah.
going to fix it or make it
Yeah.
better. It's
That's
really not.
key. You can't fix it.
I
You
was
can't
told-
fix it, and
yeah.
you're not going to make. There's nothing. I wish there was, right?
Yeah.
But there's not words in the entire book of life that will make it any better. So sometimes saying nothing is better, and I will often now correct people and say, hey, I'll stop them and say, don't worry.
Yeah.
I know there's. I get it.
Elizabeth, did you want to add something?
Oh, I was just remembering being told things like, you should be over that by now.
Oh,
you
yes.
know, all of that. Or when are you going to get over
When are you
it?
going to get over it?
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. When you're further down the road, people are wondering, why are you still talking about this?
Yeah.
You still go to those
I think for me, one of the brutal truths was that I didn't realize how my brother's life was going to be so impactful and his memory was going to be so present in my mind forever.
Yeah.
Like I did think there was an end
Yeah.
Yeah.
before I had a brother die.
I think I was maybe afraid of that being the case. You know, it scared me to think that there might be a day where I didn't get to talk about Russell.
Yeah.
You know, I think that was in the beginning of my grief. I think that was one of the things that frightens a lot of us. You know, am I going to forget them? Am I going to, stop having them be a part of my life? Am I going to stop bringing them up? Are other people going to stop asking me about him? When is he no longer going to be present for me? And I think as time has gone on, I've recognized that that's just not possible. You know, I go out of my way to bring him up, so I'm the guy that's always going to talk about his life. I'm going to remind other people that he was here, and I'm going to, in doing so, continue my relationship with him and be able to always be talking about him when I want to.
Yeah, I love that.
I will say that with time, I think it's going to sound strange, like a confidence that comes with your experience with loss.
Yeah.
I don't feel as blindsided or overwhelmed, or you know what I mean. I feel like kind of a veteran with it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, no.
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's true. I just lost my dad about 6 months ago.
I'm sorry.
And
I just said it.
yeah. And it was just, the body knows the trauma, and the body knows what to do. It's like with Manu's loss, because he was younger, it was something that was not something I was expecting, even timeline-wise, right? You don't expect your younger brother to outlive, you to outlive your younger sibling. But with my dad, that's maybe part of it's because this is how nature works. You are going to cremate or bury your parent. But this time, my body knew how to handle, and I wasn't as much of a mess as I was with the first time experiencing a family loss.
That makes sense. My mother said that when my dad died.
Yeah.
She said, with your brother, he was young, and it was like climbing Mount Everest without oxygen. With your father, it was still painful, but I knew how to take the journey.
Right.
Yeah.
It was different.
Yeah.
I was more at peace that
Yeah.
he's at peace.
So what would you all like the world to know about having a sibling die?
There's an identity loss
That's big.
for me. That's how I felt. Being the older sibling, always be like, my parents would always say, oh, look what your sister is doing. Oh, you should do this. And him always like talking about stuff. Even my kids are like, oh, if, we call him Mamu, which means brother of your mom. If he was alive, he would have been a funkle. I'm like, yes, he would have been a fun uncle. He would have taken you out
like
on
that.
Porsches and build Lego with you. And all those elements are missed from my kids' lives by no fault of theirs or mine. And so, yeah, it's that identity loss of things that were owed to me in some way are no longer available. And now I'm an only child.
And again, the four of you are now only children. But you're not, but you are, but you're not. It's complicated, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say, he's not physically here anymore, but my brother Russell lives forever in my heart and my mind. And when I bring up stories about him, I am talking about his life. I am not dwelling on his death. I am not, feeling the intense pain of it when I do that. It's hard to share that stuff with people who only hear you talking about their death, or who try to change the topic, or who get so uncomfortable with me bringing it up at all that they don't really engage with it. But that's really what it is that I am not bringing that up to talk about his death or think about my grief or think about the sadness or what I'm missing. I am bringing it up because I'm remembering and joyful that I had that experience, and I'm trying to share a joyful moment of my past in a way that brings it present, that makes him, that brings him into the moment that I'm currently in.
You can't push it and say, why can't you just start doing what we're talking
Right.
about,
Yeah.
right? So it came over, there's no timeline of when it happens. It has to happen naturally. I don't think you can go talk to someone to beat that into your head to say, okay, now you're going to be talking only positive and
Right.
feel this way, right? So I think it just happens over time.
I found that the more comfortable I got talking about it, the more comfortable other people got hearing it. Once I got more comfortable, I wasn't scared of having that conversation. And like Elizabeth said, it's like there's a wisdom that comes with it, and a confidence, an underlying notion that, you know, your reaction to what I'm doing is not going to deter me from pushing forward, and that in and of itself will push forward that conversation so that person becomes more comfortable in the long run as well.
Yeah.
So, given that you're all only children, maybe you don't consider yourself only children. This is a great conversation. Since I have two sisters, I'm curious. When people ask you how many siblings you have, or if you're only children, how do you respond to that?
I always respond. First of all, I think about who's asking the question and
Okay.
how much information I want to give them.
Know your audience.
But I will always say,
Know your audience.
I will always say, just me and my sister. I'll say me and my sister, and then if it's somebody that I don't want to get into the whole conversation with, I'll quickly change the topic. But I think one time in my life I said, and I was so guilty and sick I wanted to throw up for even saying it that I never thought about it again. I don't care. I'm gonna, even if I have to have the difficult conversation, I'm always gonna say me and my sister. There was two of us.
Okay. What about the rest of you?
Same. It's me and my brother.
It's definitely a hard question because it's an emotional landmine for one or both of you, you know, based on how, again, goes back to how comfortable you are talking about it. It took me a long time to recognize that I was able to dictate how that conversation went 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Most of the time, especially in the beginning, you don't recognize that and you end up talking about how they died and what they did, and that's not what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
But for some reason, that's what everybody kind of focuses on. But it's very easy to shift that conversation away from how they died to how they lived.
Right.
If you want to have that conversation with the person that's asking. Like you said, sometimes it's a stranger, sometimes it's not somebody that you want to give your whole history to. And it's very, you know, most of the time it's a getting to know you kind of question. Like, how deep do you want to go with somebody that you're just getting to know? But I do think it's a hard one. One of the things that I talk about in one of my workshops is I've never actually done this, but I love the concept of it. Makes me laugh so much, because it's so easy to make people uncomfortable if you want to.
Yeah, it is.
And so sometimes I've thought about that, of people saying, how many siblings do you have? After hearing them talk about, I've got 5 siblings, I got this, how many do you have? And I would say, living? Oh, none. No. I've never done it, but it's because it feels a little bit, mean to do that to somebody. But but I could do it, and that makes me laugh, and that makes the actual uncomfortable conversations a little bit easier.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I do find that the more I talk about it, and this was a much harder thing for me initially, and I think most of us gravitate toward a comfort level with the question or how to handle it. But the more outspoken I am and the more I talk about it, the more everyone feels more comfortable sharing. 50% of the time someone will have lost somebody else that they will then mention and would never have talked about, and then you're having a much deeper conversation with that person than you might otherwise if you had shielded that part of your story. So you kind of never know what's going to happen by putting it out there. I'm not really afraid of people's reactions at this point in my life of me saying what happened, and I think a lot of good things happen in response. So I'm all for sort of putting it out there.
It is interesting because you find out when people have had losses if you disclose sometimes.
Yeah.
That's just kind of crazy, right? Nobody talks about it. So
Yeah.
you know somebody for 10 years and you start to bring it up, and now all of a sudden they start talking about a thing that you didn't even know.
Yeah.
Because grief is very isolating.
Yeah,
Because
it's
you
true.
feel like, I'm going through this loss. Nobody else knows what it is to lose a sibling because they haven't lost their sibling. Your spouse doesn't know. Your children don't know. Your other family members don't know. And it's true when you talk about openly, yes, I lost, I experienced it, I know what it's like to walk in those footsteps of losing somebody, that it opens up other doors that people feel comfortable.
I feel like because society is always pushing you to just get over it and move on, and maybe people afraid of talking about death, afraid of making you upsetting you, so then we don't communicate. I think in society we don't do enough communication, right?
I agree. Do any of you consider yourself only children? And when people refer to you as only children,
No.
okay, so you consider yourself someone that had siblings.
I grew up with a sibling.
Completely shaped by having had a sibling.
Yeah.
Right. It's different. I was to say it's very different because somebody that didn't have a sibling at all
Wasn't raised with a sibling.
wasn't raised with a
You
sibling.
were all raised with your siblings.
We were all raised with a sibling.
100% of who I am is because I had Russell in the first place.
Yeah.
So, you know, I like to borrow a phrase that a girl that comes to my group used to say, which was, I am here to be Russell's brother. I'm going to be Russell's brother until the day that I die, not the day that he died.
I like that.
Right.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm Lori's brother until the day I die. That's good.
Yeah.
I love it. So, quick advice for people that have a sibling loss.
For people, or for people helping people who had a sibling loss?
That's a great question. Either or both.
Oh gosh. I don't know how to, I had to find meaning. That was one of the things. Like I said, it could just be this terrible thing that could happen, or I could find a way to bring him forward in my life in ways that I could make meaning of what happened rather than this just terrible thing happened. So for me, that's talking the show here with you. It's writing a book. It's going to compassionate friends. It's doing as much awareness as I can to help other people, and that way I keep him in my life. And I think a lot of us feel better if we find a way to bring them with us. The whole parallel traveler thing,
Okay, Parul?
I agree, and I'll second that. It's my work, bringing oral cancer awareness, the book that he wrote and I published after as a thing we did together. But it's never stop talking about them, because even though, yes, you don't get to create new memories, but you had those, and relive those and openly talk about anything that they've done in the past. They're still alive.
Yeah, and I would say also, we're not aliens. Like, don't be afraid of us. We love talking about our people, and it doesn't have to be the only thing we talk about. It certainly doesn't dominate my entire life, talking about this stuff, but it is a part of my life, and don't be afraid.
Love it. Keith?
I think if we're talking to those that have lost something, I think it's the craziness that you're going through in your head is normal, right? So I think most of the time, a lot of the craziness that you're feeling or doing is normal early on.
Yeah.
Especially early on, you don't think like, am I crazy and losing my mind?
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, and
Yeah.
quickly, where do we find everybody? Elizabeth?
Facebook's
Okay.
probably the old-fashioned for a lot of crowds. But
And your book again?
my book is called The Empty Room: Surviving the Loss of a Brother and Sister, I believe is the subhead.
Love it.
It's on Amazon.
Parul?
I'm on Instagram at Dua Good Job, DUA Good Job, and it's the best way.
You follow my podcast, Where's the Grief, on anywhere you get your podcasts, and I'm at Where's the Grief on Instagram.
And CompassionateFriends.org, look for Staten Island chapter, or Sounds of the Sibling private Facebook group.
I love it. Okay, that's a wrap. So we always end the show, as you all know, by saying, if you've lost hope, please lean on ours until you find your own. Thank you.